So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm Ana Maria de Almeida, and I'm joined with Carlos Serrão and Leonardo Chiacchieroni. We work at a project in Mpai on an health secure platform. And me and Carlos are also coming from our research center, Aih Hsp, situated at Lisbon in Portugal. So, why are we here today? Basically, we want to present our standard, the one we've been working over the past few months. I'll begin by some framing of the context and the motivation for this standard, and then my colleague Carlos will present the standard in itself. So, why do we need a standard for health powered by AI? Well, there are a big number of reasons nowadays, but mostly what has driven us is the panorama of health devices for monitoring and diagnostics. This is the most interesting piece of context here is that there's a diversity of medical gadgets that are being increasingly employed to collect health-related data for medical and even for governance purposes, like we'll see. In fact, the growing diversity of wearables and implanted devices allows us to collect big data. That is a precious resource to inform and implement different clinical scenarios that using AI processing at different levels allows for increased personalized health, remote monitoring of chronic diseases, and also for communal and global health monitoring, and thus to support decision in public health policies. But of course, this is spreading all around, and we know this is not a new for anyone, that healthcare AI is high risk. And of course, is being tightly regulated, not only by European Commission, but also being addressed in many times being an integral part of medical devices. So there's a strong regulatory setting here. And of course, for AI to work as we know it today, we need to train and update AI models using the most recent and many personal health data for this. This brings added concerns about data privacy, data security, and especially this means that we need to communicate this data by using different layers of middleware. A strong trend lately is to use federated learning as a technique for this AI processing. Well, of course, this helps with privacy, but shifts the trust to training integrity and accountability. And regulators nowadays expect traceability and evidence, not just claims of compliance, and an audit trail is needed for trustworthy AI processing and accountability. Platforms, systems, services that store health data and apply this kind of processing, AI processing on their data, need, of course, standards because health information is uniquely sensitive, like we said, high risk and deeply impactful on people's lives. While standards create a safe, consistent, and trustworthy, and that's the point here, environment for AI to support healthcare in a responsible and accountable way. The definition of common agreed upon set of rules, guidelines, or specifications for how to assess and treat health-related data in this kind of services or platforms, especially in the context, like I began to say, of wearable and implantable devices and data, is really needed. And that's why we're bringing here today. It's an Mpai project that supports both the collection, the access, and AI-based processing of health-related data, with the strong point on secure and accountable federated learning or learning and distribution of updated AI models. So that's AI for Health, Mpai, AIH, Health Secure Platform. That is, as far as you know, the first known standard using AI for improving health service. And our vision is that of service, software as a service, probably a platform that acts like a broker between the end users, the front ends that use their personal devices and collect this growing body of data, and the AI frameworks that process it and serve it as a service for third-party entities. So that is our main motivation for today. And now I leave the floor to my colleague, Carlos Serrão, to continue to present the standards. Carlos, do you want to share your...
Yeah, I will share.
Okay.
Yeah, it's better. Sorry for this. I think it's better this way. Just give me a moment. I think I don't have permission to share. Sorry, I have.
Yes, you do. It's a little bit shift to the left, I think.
I think it's this one. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Great. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to present you the health platform that we have developed in the Mpai project. So, taking in consideration what Anna has previously mentioned, we are trying to develop a standard that will try to break up monolithic AI applications into a set of different interacting components. So the idea of the architecture and the platform which we are actually proposing is to be something which is developed in several different components. Those components will have their own specific functionalities and they will interact with each other in order to provide the functionalities that we envisage for this platform. The semantics of the data exchange between the components is also known. Okay, as far as possible, we are trying also to define and to standardize this flow of information between these different components in order to provide the functionalities that we require. And we will expect to have different developers competing for offering those standard components with improved performance. So the idea is that we can even in the whole architecture that we are developing, we can even replace the different components provided by different developers in order to create different visions of the architecture or with different types of performance or different functionalities. So the idea is that we can actually decouple everything into very small components that can be actually replaced by others. The Mpai artificial intelligence framework defines a kind of Lego type approach in which we can actually use applications which are composed of AI modules and which are executed in AI frameworks. We follow exactly the same nomenclature or the same taxonomy which is defined by Mpai. So this architecture enables actually this dynamic configuration, initialization, and control of these AI workflows, and it tries to do it in a standard AI framework. So we have defined the architecture, we have also defined the metadata, the common API features, which actually will be further detailed and further developed as the standard evolves. We will also define the security API because there are, as I mentioned before, our major idea is to create an architecture which is actually secure and which provides security functionalities which will allow the protection of the health data itself and also the definition of a set of different profiles that might actually be used in our architecture. So the reference module that we propose is the one which is presented here in this figure. So actually, we use the architecture which is common to most of the projects of Mpai. And we also use here some mechanisms which will allow us to create and to receive the inputs from user agents from the outside that actually will be processed by our architecture and by the different AI modules which actually will somehow process the data and will produce a set of outputs that actually will be used and will be consumed by some external entities that we are going to provide that data to. We also, this is the overall overview of the system itself. So we have this large building block in the center, which is actually what we call the AIH backend. The AIH backend is composed of a set of components which will provide the necessary functionalities for this backend to do the processing of the data and the protection of the data, and also the necessary auditability of the data itself. This backend is connected by two different front ends. So these front ends are actually mechanisms that will allow the backend to obtain the data and also to receive that data in a format that can actually be performed by the backend. And also the front end as itself some artificial intelligence mechanisms to locally process that data using federated learning, for instance. And on the right side, we can see the third-party users, which are the ones which actually will use the data which are provided by the front end and which are processed by the back end in order to produce some kind of results. So we can imagine, for instance, an hospital accessing the data on the back end to do a large scale trial on some disease that they want to in which they want to use some kind of artificial mechanisms to detect some specific features of that disease. We are also, this backend is also connected to the Mpai store because we would like to have the possibility of exchanging the different types of artificial intelligence mechanisms that we can provide to the backend to process the data that the backend processes. And also we will use a blockchain, and the blockchain is something that we are going to use to do several things. One of the most important things is to create a mechanism that allows the end user, the one which is going to provide their data to the system, to be able to know if their data is being used according to the conditions to which he gave the data to the system. So let's imagine, for instance, that I gave my data to the system saying, okay, I provide my health data to the system, but I just want this data to be processed by or to be accessed by hospitals. Okay, so this provides a mean for the end user afterwards to check the system if actually its data is being used properly. Also, the blockchain is used to create contracts, bounding contracts between the third parties, so the entities which access the data, and the mechanisms and the users which provide the data. So this means that I can create, for instance, contracts, bounding contracts between the users who provide the data to the third party, saying, for instance, things like, okay, you can use this data for this kind of purpose during this period of time. So that's the way we envisage that this kind of mechanisms will work. So this is the rough overview of the system. Now I'm going to enter a little bit more into details about, first of all, the front end. So the front end is something that sits on the end user side. So it can be, for instance, a mobile application on a smart device that the user processes. And actually, this front end also provides a set of mechanisms for either collecting data. So we are actually collecting data from the end user. And also we can use this mechanism to process locally the data which is provided by the user. For instance, one of the use cases that I can remember of for this is, for instance, to detect if the health data that is being collected by the end user can present a risk for the user itself. For instance, to detect, for instance, if the user presents some symptoms which are, for instance, compatible to the user having COVID-19, for instance. So this is something that we intend also to have. So we actually collect AIH data. So AIH data is the format of the data, of the health data, which is being collected on the end user. This AIH data is going to be registered, is going to be processed through federated learning mechanisms. It is going also to be able to create model licenses for using of that data. So the end user can use its own front end to declare and to establish licenses which are going to be actually created on the blockchain. And we can also use this mechanism to detect anomalies and to provide risk alerts to the end user itself. But one of the major important things of the health front end, besides all of these mechanisms that we have here, is also to be used as a basis to provide data to the backend. So we are collecting data using this front end from the end user, and we are feeding that data to the backend in a format which will be actually protected and it will be secure. So this is one of the components of the architecture. So this is the health front end. Then we have the backend. The backend provides a large set of functionalities, and it's composed by a large number of components. So actually, we have here a set of components which provides also federated learning. So we can also have these mechanisms of artificial intelligence here in the backend. It provides mechanisms for auditing. So once again, we can check if the data is being used according to what was established by the end user and by the third party. So we are going to use the backend and the blockchain to check if everything is according to what was established before. We also de-identify and anonymize data. So this means that we are using these mechanisms of data in order to protect the privacy of the end user. We anonymize the data and we try to de-identify the data in order to be impossible for any third party using the data to actually establish the identity of the users which provided that data. We have here also data processing. So data processing is actually the processing of data according to the artificial intelligence mechanisms that are going to be orchestrated in order to produce a certain result. So we are actually using the different components that are present in Mpai ecosystem in order to take the data and to try to produce some result with the data. We also have mechanisms for detecting anomalies and to alert for risks for specific end users or even for a large community. For instance, I imagine that if we collect data from a large amount of people, probably we can detect that on a given community, we are starting to see some symptoms that require that some alerts, health-related alert, to be somehow fired up. We have also, and this is one of the most important mechanisms, of course, which is to store the data securely on the backend. So we will have a large repository of secure data vault, in which all this data is going to be securely stored, and that can be actually afterwards used by any third party that would like to use these mechanisms. And this is, once again, the overview of the architecture and the platform that we have been developing during the past, I would say, year and a half. So moving on. So this is the organization of the standard itself. So once again, everything is on the Mpai website. Inside the standards, then we can find information about the artificial intelligence for health standards and also for the platform itself. And we have the version 1 in which is published on this website. Once again, inside that standards web page, you will find the workflows for the health front ends and for the health backends. Okay, so this will be the links for the different pages where you will find information about the workflow established for the health backends and also for the health front end, and also for the different specifications that we have, for the different modules that we have inside the architecture itself. So we have for the data processing, for the anomaly and risk alerting, for the auditing mechanisms, for the identification and anonymization, for the health federated learning, for the model licensing, and for the storage. I forgot to mention all of this is specified in JSON files. Also, we have different types of data and all of this data is also specified inside the standard. So the most basic one, which is the AEH data itself, which contains the formats of the health data that we are going to use. The different processing types to which the data can be used, the auditing mechanisms, the blockchain licenses, the identification, and many, many others. So I don't think we need to be too exhaustive with these things, but once again, it shows the amount of work which has already been done into this standard and the types of things that we already have prepared and we already have available for evaluation. We have also specific qualifiers. This is more specific for the types of specific data types that we have on the AH health data. So we have things like electrocardiograms, medical images, so genomic qualifiers. All of this is also defined on the standard itself. We have now entering into a stage in which this standard is almost ready for publication. While we are working to finalize the standard, the draft is going to be published on the web. And of course, we'll welcome everyone to comment and to make proposals for changes in the specification. The deadline for this comment is going to be the 16th of March, and all the comments should be sent to the Mpai Secretariat. And I think this is all. I don't know if you, Leonardo, would like to add something up to what I said, but I think this is what we have to show to everyone. So
your presentation was perfect. I don't have anything to add. Maybe you can keep on hitting enter to complete.
Okay, sorry. Oh, okay, sorry. I forgot that there was an animation on these last slides. Sorry. Okay, and this is the URL.
I think we can close now and we see if